I would like to thank Kevin Smith for sending me this story. And this is another airplane type story. It seems like every year for the last couple of years, we have had a horror story that has happened on some type of aircraft. And this year seems to be no different. But this one is slightly different because this one doesn't involve any type of physical abuse of someone, being dragged off of a plane or, physical assault. This one deals with more of a sexual assault. Actually, it deals with rape. So in this picture, you see two JetBlue pilots whose names are Eric Johnson and Dan Watson. And apparently last May, and they're just now reporting on this story, last May, these two pilots raped two airline female workers. And that wasn't all, but let me get into the article and you'll find out what else happened. A pair of JetBlue pilots raped two female airline workers during a layover in Puerto Rico and left one of the victims with an STD. The heinous incident occurred in San Juan on May 9th after the crew members met flight officers Eric Johnson and Dan Watson on the beach and shared some beers after finding out the men were pilots for JetBlue. The beer was laced with a drug, and after that point, the rest of the night became a blur, says the lawsuit, which was filed Monday. The women, who only identified as Jane Doe 1 from Riverton, Utah, and Jane Doe 2 from Fort Worth, Texas, and a third crew member with no hometown, ended up back at the Intercontinental Hotel with the pilot. That's where Jane Doe 1 says Johnson raped her and the third crew member. Johnson was on top of Jane Doe 1, raping her, the lawsuit states. Jane Doe 1 felt the influence of the drug that Johnson laced the beer with and was unable to react to the situation, but was simply aware that it was happening. Her flashes of memory included Johnson having sexual intercourse with the other crew member who was also under the influence of the drugs. After the assault, Johnson said, "Thank you for making my fantasy come true." Meanwhile, Jane Doe 2 became sick from the drugs and vomited a number of times. Johnson and Watson drugged Jane Doe 2 and intended to rape her, but did not when she began vomiting, which was a turnoff. The next morning on a flight to Newark, New Jersey, the women felt groggy and numb and expressed to each other that they were stunned by what had happened. The women say that they reported the rape to JetBlue, but that no action was ever taken against the pilots. Jane Doe 1 says that Johnson intentionally gave her HPV. "What happened to my clients is truly horrific, and JetBlue's failure to take appropriate action is appalling," says the woman's lawyer, Abraham Melamed. The women are suing for at least $75,000 each in damages plus attorney fees and costs. The pilots could not be reached. JetBlue told the Post that it couldn't comment on pending litigation. The airline said it takes allegations of violent or inappropriate behavior very seriously and investigates such claims thoroughly. Now, what's interesting is that last part where they say they take claims like these seriously, yet this happened back in May, apparently, of last year, because May has not rolled around yet this year. And it states nowhere in the article or anywhere we can find the story that anything happened to these pilots. It didn't say that they were put on the typical paid administrative leave. It didn't even say if they were fired. It states none of that. It just says that the pilots could not be reached. And then JetBlue pretty much brushed it off, but then tried to cover it up with that typical statement saying that they take this seriously. Apparently, they do not take it seriously. All that woman has to do is prove that this man gave her that STD, and that'll blow this case sky high in their favor. And that would be it. But stuff like this, really doesn't surprise me. And it's so crazy what I'm about to say. But thankfully, she was vomiting that day because she ended up preventing herself from being taken advantage of. Now, I would like to know, is Me Too going to say anything about... I like asking rhetorical questions when it comes to them because I already know what the answer is going to be. They're not going to say anything about it. And I would be pleasantly surprised if they did, but I know that they won't because this would be considered low priority for them. This is exactly why it's stories like this, which is why the first them hashtag was created for individuals like these two. Although in this picture they kind of look alike, but I don't know if they're the same person or not. But either way, it's either one or both of them, and they are the ones responsible. But y'all let me know what you think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you in the next one.